All right, we are live. What's up, guys? We are doing a just kind of ask me anything sort of thing where you got members here in the Discord, some people in our lobby, and we're just doing our Shinobi Masters training, but this one's going to be a little different. We're just doing like a, yeah, again, ask me anything where we're talking about just anything Fortnite. Go ahead and ask away. So people in the Discord are going to get priority here that are live in the voice chat. Otherwise, I will also answer member questions as well. Hi, minus sniper. All right.
We just got full silver on. Oh, that's someone else.
Yeah,
Neutrino.
All right. So any questions, guys, that you have? Any burning questions that you've been wondering about?
How much movement do you want to try and incorporate into a close quarter fight when you're in the open?
That's a good question. How much movement should you incorporate into a close range fight? It really depends on the situation. So like, let's get over here. Someone at this blue house towards the center of the map. So movement is super important, but movement is second priority to positioning and cover. So if you've got good positioning and cover, then you don't need to do all that much movement, right? Then it's more about like doing limited movement that's going to give you nice little advantages. Something like a jump shot. Like, so go down there on the ground right there. Yeah, somebody's down there, right? Like movement in this case would be pretty limited. We're just going like something like this until we get enough damage, and then we move in, right? And then we start hitting them with the actual movement of sliding and jumping around. Now, if you're out in the open like this, right, out here, it depends on the weapon that you have as well, how much movement you want to put on. If you have something like a burst, thunder burst, movement is going to be really, really important, because the advantage of this weapon is the range on it and the accuracy. So if you've got good movement and good aim, you can use the thunder burst to stay really mobile and hit your shots like this while you move around and make it hard for them to land shotgun shots. So if you're open field and you've got like a ranged weapon that has, you know, does good damage at medium range, and your enemy like is gonna struggle to hit you while you're moving around all crazy, then it's really, really good to throw on movement. Then it's really good to start sliding, sprint sliding, just change up your directions quickly, and also be trying to output damage the whole time. Now that's a really important thing, because I see a lot of people, even content creators, that talk about like, you know, doing just crazy movement all the time like this. And what they don't realize is when they're doing this sprint, every time they sprint, they are not shooting their gun. Every time they start to move all fast, they're not firing their weapon. And that means that your enemy is, right? The entire time that you're sprinting around trying to be all fancy with it and jumping and all that, you're not shooting your weapon. So it's really, really important to keep damage uptime while you're moving, right? So you have to be really smart about your movements. You can't just be doing this where you're like jumping over someone's head over and over again, firing a shot, jumping over someone's head, unless you got like a pump shotgun that's going to be hitting really hard, or a gatekeeper. But even a gatekeeper, if you're within close range, it's better to just try to hit your shots, right? If you've got that shotgun right now, right, go ahead and just try to hit your shots on me. Here we go. If I'm jumping around doing this, like, it's just not worth it for me to do that, because you've got a gatekeeper. You can just fire that thing super fast, does crazy damage at close range. So there's no point in me trying to outmaneuver you at close range. Instead, I need to take that fight from a longer distance to get that advantage on you. And then I can use the movement, right? So here we go. Now we're fighting. You've got the gatekeeper and I've got this shotgun, right? And then that's important to keep movement and keep space, because I don't want you getting close when you got that gun. But if I'm just jumping around up in your face and just trying to break your camera when you have a gatekeeper and you're just like full auto firing on it, I'm just dead pretty much. So movement is like something that's really important, but you got to know when to use it is kind of the answer. And a lot of times that means using it at medium range, or just going for camera breaks. If there's ever an opportunity for a camera break, and you don't have good cover already, and you know you're in a bad spot, you might as well go for the camera break. And the camera break is basically anytime you get over someone's head and they have to find you, or anytime you get off their screen and they have to find you, right? Like Surf is doing to me. So, and the best way to use a camera break is with cover, with some sort of thing to block your character so they lose you. So like if, you know, if Surf gets up on here and he's climbing up. See, I'm too late on that. Now I'm pretty much dead. So it's really important the timing of the camera breaks. Go ahead, Neutrino, push my building over here. All right, this is the camera break we're talking about. See, we get 2 free shots before you really find us. But see, there we go. Again, with a gatekeeper and being like that, I should have just held my position. So instead of doing that camera break right there, I should have just used the positioning and cover to beat you, because I had the advantage to begin with. And that's where people kind of like get lost about using mobility or using good movement, is they try to use good movement in every single fight, and then they wonder why they get killed. Well, it's because if I were to take that fight, and Neutrino, you were out there, right? The best thing I could do is actually do this. Ready? Go. Push me. Is just use this little, and then back up, let you get on my roof, and just keep distance, because now I've got a huge health advantage, and you'd have to close that gap and get right up in my face to hit me hard. And if I don't let you do that by just using good spacing, then I win pretty much every time. But if I stay on that roof and you get up here and you hit me with 2 gatekeepers, it could go either way, you know? Any other questions on movement?
I find sometimes in these fights I end up like running around like a maniac trying to avoid shots, and like and I can't ever get turned back to actually hit the guy that's kind of chasing me around.
Yeah, you know, that'll happen. That'll happen if you don't have kind of a lot of times that'll happen if you don't have the plan in mind ahead of time. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, is like people like just spamming movement in fights thinking that they're doing things, but they're not, because they're not putting out any damage. All they're doing is giving their enemies some free aim training, right? They're just like, oh, here, just try to hit me, you know, like, and what's your plan though, you know? So you got to have a plan in mind. If you start moving, you got to have like intent behind it. Like, okay, I'm doing this thing so that I can get to this position and turn this fight around, or so that I can get behind this piece of cover and then break their camera, that sort of thing. If I'm just running out here and I'm just trying to, like, you know, not get shot and run my enemy out of ammo, that's a pretty darn risky thing to do, because you just got to assume that everyone is going to hit shots. Yeah, and then you're going to run out of stamina, exactly. Then you'll be standing still by the time they're reloaded, and then you're like, oh, geez. So a lot of times it's better to just take the fight and just like use a very limited movement, like just do one slide, maybe a jump during the fight, and that's really all you need, right? And just try to hit your shots. So you're doing this sort of thing where you're just jump sliding over and over again. That's why I really like the jump slide like that, the skating move, because it allows you to output damage while staying mobile. It's super, super, super important to keep that damage up. But if you're just constantly sprint jumping like this, taking a shot, sprint jumping, taking a shot, sprint jumping, taking a shot, you have like less than half the damage output that you should have. So that's why skating is so important in fights like this, because it allows you to stay fairly hard to hit while sliding. And then once you get some nice damage, just focus on finishing the fight, right? If you've got more damage than your enemy, don't try to get all crazy with the movement again, because you're probably going to throw off your own aim. So again, like, pay attention to how much health advantage you have in a fight. If you get a nice chunk of health advantage, don't go for the fancy moves. Just like literally just focus 100% on hitting your shots.
Also, with the gatekeeper, my thing is just making sure you hit the first shot, because if you've got blue and up, you can 3-body.
Yep. Yeah. If you got only a 3-drum mag on the gatekeeper, it, again, like what Surf is saying, is like hit your shots, because in most cases, no matter what the enemy does, if you hit 3 solid shots at like within 10 meters, you're probably killing them. And they can try to go for as much as they want, but like, yeah, if they kind of like go ahead, Surf, you're like down here, right? And I try to like get all crazy. If he just lands his shots, see, like, it doesn't really matter what movement I do, because if he's landing those shots, it's going to be real bad for me. Here, I'll
Yeah,
actually
and
grab.
your first shot with the gatekeeper is like, if it's like not, I guess 70 plus damage, then you don't want to run in that with only 2 shots. You want to try and reload.
Yeah.
Push in again.
Yeah, so like Surf got a 25 on his first shot right there. And at that point, he's probably going to want to play cover and like stop focusing on hitting the shots. His next move would probably be get to cover so that he doesn't have to rely on like, unless he's got a nice SMG to finish up with, sort of thing. But yeah, if you land a shot like this, boom, then it's just stand still and basically let them make the mistake. Because he could try to play this bush as a jump shot, but even then I'm just going to watch it. And it's like, okay, you can't do anything because I've hit you for 180 or whatever before you've done anything to me.
Yeah, the gatekeeper's very generous.
Yeah, it's definitely the best shotgun Fortnite's ever had, I think. At least the easiest to use and most damage.
It's so easy to hit high shots, like the
Yeah.
pellet spread. And you've got this big crosshair, but if you hit a good shot, it'll just focus all the pellets to the center.
Yeah, the little like middle triangle is crazy. Actually,
It's basically got
crazy
its
accurate.
own built-in aim assist.
Okay. Any other questions on movement? Yeah, Johnstone, we're actually doing a different thing. This is actually a master training. We're just kind of doing a demo lobby. Sometimes I do this every once in a while in our master trainings where people just ask me questions and I kind of answer them live. And I figured I'd open it up to all members today and just let them see it. Any questions in the Discord about movement or actually any questions you have at all, actually? It doesn't have to be movement. Not a single question. All right. Well, then I'll go to...
I have one.
Sure.
So I've done my best to avoid 2v2s until very recently, and I'm finding that when it comes to using bunkers, I get caught on them a lot, which is, I mean, obviously, like, practice is going to help, but do you have any tips or strategies for using bunkers?
Yes. What I've also struggled with bunkers, and I think I finally realized, it took a while, is it's the same thing where your body is on the left side of your reticle. So if you throw down a bunker, right, and you're trying to get through a door, and you're putting your reticle on the door, well, guess what? Your body's to the left of your reticle. So if you're trying to move cleanly through objects and you're putting your reticle through the pathway, you run right into the door. So what you do instead is you have to like either just look at your character model and don't look at your reticle, or always aim to the right of where you're trying to go, if that makes sense. So like if I'm trying to get through this door, I need to aim to the right, and that's nice and clean movement. And I'm not getting stuck on things because you're able to just get right through there. So like that, I messed up. But like you want to put your reticle almost on the, I guess furthest right side of where you're trying to move to, because your body is to the left of that. So if you're trying to go through this little gap right here, you'd almost aim at this ramp instead of aiming at the entryway, because if you aim at the entryway, you might clip yourself on that. See how that does that? You probably can't see because you're not in here, but the live stream you can see if you have it up.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. But yeah, so basically always aim to the right of where you want to go, and that's going to help clean up that movement. And it's something I kind of just realized recently. You know, a lot of times you'll be in these bunker fights, right? And you'll get clipped on a door, clipped on another door, and it's like, why am I doing that? Well, it's because you're aiming at the center of the door. Either stop looking at your reticle and just aim your character around, or aim to the right of where you're trying to go a little bit. And I would actually suggest aiming your character instead of looking at your reticle at all. But what's that, sir?
If you sprint at the door, you don't even have to press anything.
Yeah. If
So
you just,
it doesn't matter where you're aiming if you sprint at the door.
you mean going through it? I think what she was saying is like running into stuff. Like she's saying that her movement sometimes isn't very clean in bunkers, and she runs into stuff.
Yeah, I just get caught on the corners mostly.
Yeah.
And then the other issue on bunkers is just like if I'm like near the top of the bunker and somebody's coming around, like they can see me and shoot me dead so quickly before I even see them coming.
If you're at the top of the bunker?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if they
yeah.
come around the side, like they usually end up clipping me before I even have a chance to
Yeah.
get sights on them.
Do you have visual audio on?
I sure do. It's a skill issue. I'll admit that 100%. But
Yeah, it's really like
trying
about
to find
like
ways to get
playing a
better.
lot of fast-paced 2v2s where people are like forcing you to move. If you play really slow-paced 1v1s or slow-paced 2v2s, you kind of get this feeling that you can just kind of sit in your bunker and wait around, and then they'll like push and like end up behind you, and you can just kind of shoot them. But when you play against fast-paced players that like know how to use bunkers and get in your bunker fast, and they do these things where they go through the door really clean and they come up over here and then they go in and they come back out, right? It's really like, oh my gosh, bunkers are not good. It's like I don't feel like bunkers are safe at all. But instead you need to recognize like what they're trying to do ahead of time and then counter that and make sure that you have kind of like a contingency plan for what they might do so that you cover like multiple angles and that you have like guarantee your safety. Not guarantee, it's never guaranteed, but like, so if somebody comes around in my bunker right here, the first move I'm going to do is actually jump out of the bunker and try to go for a right shoulder. Then I'm going to open this door and I'm looking for him. Now I'm going down here. I know he's going around. Actually, I'm losing him because of footsteps. But see, I'm already jumping out of the bunker because I had a feeling that he was coming through it or they're coming through it. So I'm already jumping out as I'm looking for a shot. So it's about like just staying mobile in these bunkers and not like just sitting up here and being like, okay, they're coming around, here they come. It's like, no, if they're coming around, you need to already be moving out and ready for a jump shot. And if you don't land that jump shot, that's okay. At least you didn't take a massive amount of damage just for sitting here and be an easy shot. If they're coming around and you're down here, then it's like, okay, get to a right shoulder peek. And if they start coming around even further to this door, you better be ready to get through this door. It's just like, it's a kind of a chess game of like, okay, if they do this, I need to do that. And you're always just looking for the jump shot or the right shoulder peek or a way to break their camera. There's like the three things you need to do in all bunker fights: right shoulder peek, jump shot, or break their camera. By breaking their camera, I mean like going over their head. Like right here, I would just do a jump shot because this is easy. But now they go over and I go for a camera break. And now I just stay here and watch, let them jump out the front. Because that's also a thing that you have to think about is like, if you're running someone around a bunker, they're hurt. What they're going to do is try to go for a camera break on you or a jump shot. So you just stand still and you just wait. The worst case scenario is they stay in the bunker and then you just jump up and you stay at this corner because the corners are best for that. You can watch pretty much all the angles and you can climb up over. But yeah, bunker fights are like, it's an art form. It's like, it takes a lot of learning. I guess it's more like a science than an art, but it's kind of like if they do this, then do that a lot of times. And then if you play like really good players, like really absurd players, like, Frode or Zaraxis, Thanos, all those guys, like...
I'll avoid trying to be humbled that way.
Yeah, I was playing against them last night. It's like at that point, bunkers don't even matter. It's like more about mobility and just like doing crazy movement, using tires and like just staying in the air as much as you can and like getting them confused using nitro splashes and all kinds of stuff. A lot of times you do not want to be in the bunker against people that are really good because they'll just like basically use it against you. They'll like box you in it.
The other question I have is, like if you're in a zero build match and you're playing with a squad and somebody throws up a bunker, like there's not a lot of room at like towards the top of the bunker for more than two people. So where would the other two people be best positioned?
If you're in a squad?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just use 2 bunkers.
Yeah, you'd want to use multiple bunkers, but like, so let's get this whole squad over here. Let's get 4 people over here. 2 bunkers is good, and then if you only have one and you don't want to burn a bunker or something like that, yeah, like this is ideal, right? Back-to-back bunkers, and you got your back covered. You got options for opening these doors, but if you only have one, also the answer is usually like have angles like this where you're using right shoulder peeks off the back side of the bunker, or use these doors. You can kick open a door, use this as a right shoulder peek, or you can just sit really far back, like and play the cover like this, right? And that's a lot of times I'm not up here in the bunker because other people usually take this spot. And if you guys are going to take this spot, then I'm going to kind of play back here. Or I'm just going to go for my own flanks. Like a lot of times if you have 4 people sitting in one bunker, you're going to kind of be an easy target for everybody. If they get around on you and flank, it's a real problem. But if you have one person that's kind of being like a, I don't know what you'd call that, like a safety sort of like, or like a anchor out here, and like they're playing a different piece of cover and just kind of keeping eyes, making sure that your team doesn't get snuck up on, that's probably a much better option. As long as you have safety, right? Good cover, like a big rock or something like over here, and you're like, okay, I'm just watching the landscape. Oh, team over pushing to our left, they're getting behind us. Then it's like, okay, everyone out of the bunker, you know, or like throw down another bunker, find some cover because they're about to get our backs. You do not want to be at the top of a bunker when someone's back here. Any other questions on bunkers?
Also,
Give me.
you're not really safe sat under here. People will find the angle on your toes.
Yeah, exactly. Like underneath a bunker is just a bad spot to be, even when people are back here, because they can do this. So anytime somebody gets behind your bunker, unless they're really close range and you got no other options, you just gotta fight it. Take the right shoulder peek, but otherwise you want to get out pretty much immediately. Get to a different angle, use a different angle on them. Like this door for right shoulder, whatever you can.
When you're in a bunker fight, and say I'm looking at this bunker over here, it's really easy to peek on the right and get back in. What's the best way to peek up and down when you're on the top? Because I feel like that's a lot slower and easier to get hit.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a trick here. So go out there, Neutrino, go out to the parking lot. So the trick that you do with peeking is a lot of people do this, right? They'll come up here, they'll take a shot, right? They do this. This is how they peek. Look how slow that is. You could hit me probably 2 or 3 times before I get back down. Right? That's not really doing very much. It's bad. So what you do instead is you crouch. You get up to the point where you can then uncrouch and take a shot, and then you just strafe a little bit, take another shot, crouch down, uncrouch, crouch down, and this is a lot harder for you to fight. Right? And then I would kind of just go third person, wait for a little bit, throw off the tempo. My aim's terrible right now. Yeah.
Not coming up in the same spot every time.
Yeah, you're looking for just kind of little two taps of damage and then back to cover sort of thing.
I was actually practicing last night with this, and if you look at the bunker itself, there's like those metal beams or rods that go across where the wood is. And if you position your feet right on the second one from the top, that's really right about where you need to be. So if you fully stand up from there,
oh yeah,
it's almost perfect.
Yeah, I guess that's where I'm sitting right now. I see what you're talking about. Kind of the brown metal, rusted metal. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what I do is I just look as a visual reference of the most ideal thing you can do is cut your actual scope in half so that your actual red dot, you know, your reticle on your sight is like pretty much the only thing visible, right? So like this is the best peek I could get on this person over here.
I could just get the top of your ears there too, a little bit. But
Yeah, so like at that point it's almost not impossible, but it's very hard for someone to hit this shot right here, right? So like I can see this person's doing it too. And yeah, see how crazy that is? But you still have full visibility on them. So go for as tight of a peek as you can.
There's a scoper's advantage there as well, because you'll just red X without a scope.
Yeah, exactly. Scopes are totally necessary in bunker fights if you want to actually cut angles tightly. But yeah, playing 2v2s and 1v1s, when you guys do it, really focus. You know, a lot of times you'll get in this kind of waiting game of who's going to make the first mistake or who's going to peek. And if you're going to peek at all, you need to be doing it really tight, and you need to be switching up your peeks. So don't take the same peek over and over. If I'm doing this is how I usually start bunker fights, right? If somebody's over in that bunker, I'll take a couple shots like this, right? I missed. Okay, gonna rotate to the right. Okay, now they're looking at me down here, and now they think, okay, he's down there, and then I come up here, take a shot, and we're doing these really tight peeks. Okay, you're looking at me. Okay, I'm gonna go back down here. Okay, I missed. Might go for a little left shoulder here. Boom. Come back up here. Is he gonna peek me again because he thinks I'm easy? So see, that's like, don't just sit up here and do this over and over. Boom, 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 because you're gonna get yourself absolutely destroyed. Even if you're doing it really tight like this, you're still gonna, eventually they're gonna find your head and then just start holding down the trigger. So instead you gotta mix it up, at least go left and right, and then I would always encourage you to mix up some right shoulders. Even if you're not hitting them down here, they're going to think that they're kind of like at an advantage because you're down here. And then they're going to get a little bit too high on that bunker. That's when you come up here and you unpeak, you know, and you go for those shots. See that? Yeah, that right there is a really hard shot for me to hit right there. And it's hard for you to hit me too. And if you're using like something like an enforcer or a deagle or a sniper, even better for this type of stuff, because that allows you to like hit those really heavy shots instead of using something that has a lot of kick, a lot of like vertical recoil that's going to mess up your aim. Any other questions? Biggest issues with stamina. Go ahead, BZ.
Yeah, so it's maybe a myth, or I don't know if it's a myth, but I think you already touched upon it. But if you're in a bunker and you don't use the gaps between the beam and the it's that small beam up there. If you don't have a scope weapon and you scope in with and you just ADS, I don't think the bullets go through.
If you don't have a scope, yeah. So like what Surf was saying is like a lot of the stuff is necessary to have a scope. Like I can't shoot through this gap right here without a scope. For some reason, Fortnite just doesn't like. It has a different actual like point of bullet. What I don't know.
The beams up
output.
top, like the smoke. Yeah, I've seen. I think you shoot
Yeah.
from outside. Because I know in Reloaded, none of our guns have scopes, so that's why I was like, kind of hard to. Yeah. Surf and Reaper put out a video recently on bunkers, and they went over all these. I actually watched it last night. It's really good. They went over all these little cracks, like all kinds of little spots that you can shoot through bunkers, which I would say in most cases isn't all that useful, but it is really useful for breaking other people's bunkers, or if people are just being really static, right? So like, for instance, like these doors, you can actually shoot through the cracks of these doors. It's actually better to do it on a right shoulder over here. But like you can destroy someone else's bunker by just aiming down sights and shooting, you know, through it and breaking their bunker wall. And then it's like, what the heck? How's he shooting me? Or, you know, going through one of these little cracks right here and putting pressure on them. So like in rapid 2v2s, this kind of stuff is good because you pretty much put yourself at no risk and you can destroy their bunker. Yep,
Some-
that was all.
I just took that shot through the crack of the door.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, so there's like little weird cracks all over these bunkers. Like again, if you break one of these back here, there's a weird little angle right here you can get to break cover over there. So you can find angles. Like bunkers are really interesting that way. There's like a lot of little tricks to them. A lot of little secrets. If you like break off one of these, you can actually walk off here and get bounced. But if you don't break that off, you will not get bounced when you walk off. Or at least it's a lot harder.
I hadn't realized you could do that. That's useful.
Yeah, so like a lot of times, you know, if you want to push somebody, but they're like, that's that awkward little metal piece right there, you can just walk right off and, if you break it.
Yeah, like you could just pop fizz and then. Well, I'm assuming it still works with fizz.
Yeah.
Depends
I had
on
a
how
question
high
that's not
you
bunker related.
Sure. What's up?
I'm a controller player, but it may be related to even a mouse. A lot of times I find myself tapping the trigger, not holding it down. Does that hurt me on my bloom? Do you recommend holding the trigger down, or is tapping? I don't know why I got into the habit of tapping the trigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What for?
Down.
I mean, it depends, I guess, on what kind of weapon.
Is that okay?
I didn't realize these are instant respawns. That's crazy.
In the reload, I do it a lot to reset first bullet accuracy.
Yeah, I would recommend tap firing pretty much everything, except for like full auto weapons at like medium range, you know, where it's all about recoil. If the weapon has a lot of recoil, sorry, not a lot of recoil, but a lot of vertical recoil, I find it much better to just full auto, so that you can like get a feeling of the pacing of that recoil to be able to fight it better. But if it's got a lot of bloom and there's no scope, then yes, you definitely want to tap fire. So when there is like high bloom weapons,
I would say you almost always want to tap fire, like the hammer AR, for instance, the enforcer, like those types of weapons, especially without scopes, is really, really good to tap fire. But like a gate, a Warforged AR or a combat AR, those should be pretty much either burst fired or held down, so that you
So
can.
bloom, you're looking at tap. Recoil, you're kind of looking at hold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you said it much smarter than I did.
What does bloom mean?
Bloom is, if you can see my screen right now, if you start firing your weapon without a scope, it is basically like a radius of what your bullet. You could draw a circle around those little like crosses. There's like a cross on your screen, right? The 4 little hashes, up, down, left, right.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah.
basically the zone at which your bullet could land, the area. So that's the bloom. It's an RNG, or like a randomness factor. Yeah, and like a burst, a Thunderburst AR with or a Thunderburst SMG with a laser has 0 bloom when you start shooting it. Notice how that reticle gets completely tight, super, super tight. So that's tight bloom, which means like very accurate. If you hip fire a laser burst, but if you hip fire a combat AR, look how the bloom just goes wild, right? So it's not very good because it can be really, really random at longer ranges. So if you get past like 20 meters, 30 meters with a combat AR, it gets a little more random. We're still hitting shots, but definitely not every shot.
I have another tip on that note. With like the hand cannon, that has bloom when you hip fire, but obviously you can put a scope on it. So if you're not like wanting to hard scope, but you want to take a quick shot, just quick scope it, and it'll make it perfectly accurate.
Oh, you're saying quick scope after a shot, just like really quickly aim down sights.
With the
and then...
deagle, with the deagle, if you're on the ground and you don't want to like zoom in and wait to take a shot, you're just looking to take a quick shot.
Yeah.
If you quick scope it, it'll make it perfectly accurate.
Yeah.
Does the radius kind of give you an idea of the bloom? Because I know some weapons are a little bit larger, some they're kind of tighter.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that kind of
anywhere.
encompassing of the bloom?
It's anywhere inside the square, like the rotated square.
Okay.
Like if you just connect up the crosshair edges, that shows you like anywhere the bullet can go.
Yeah, so if you're watching my screen right now, you'll see me using this combat AR. Look how far those lines start to kick at certain times, and then it just gets really random. But if you burst fire like this, notice how it stays pretty tight. And if you crouch, it stays even tighter. Look at that. Much better if you stay crouched and you're not moving. If you crouch and then you start moving a little bit, see how they spread? It just increases or decreases accuracy. But if you stay put and you just crouch, which I wouldn't really recommend unless you're sliding, because sliding actually does the same thing as crouching if you're not pressing in any direction. That's really important. So if you start sliding and you start pressing in a direction, look how big my bloom is, because I'm pressing forward.
Right.
But if I just hit slide and I don't press, look how tight it is. So it almost treats it as if you're crouched.
Even with aim down sights, or outside of ADS, does a scope help with the bloom, or is it only when you're ADS?
Only when you ADS. Yeah, it doesn't make any difference. Laser does. Laser does a little bit when you're jumping.
Laser does.
Yeah, especially when you're jumping.
Okay. Thank you.
But like that's actually why the Thunderburst is perfectly accurate once you start shooting, because the laser starts to kick in once you start firing, or you're like in the air and you start firing. That's how it gets perfect, is because that laser. So laser attachment kind of helps with hip fire a lot, especially weapons like like shotguns. It doesn't matter for at all until you jump. Once you start jumping, then your bloom, it's not really showing, but you can see it expanded a little bit. That's going to expand more without a laser, less with a laser. But otherwise, it's pretty much staying the same. Yeah.
Okay. We need a bit of distance, probably. Like, so if I shoot, like, if someone stands still.
Yeah.
Show this. Yeah, like, I'm. If I'm like right next to you there, that doesn't. I can be like right on your edge of your character, and it'll hit sometimes.
Yeah.
And then, like, hang on.
But you're saying just like hit the little scope right before you shoot. Doesn't even actually
Yeah,
go
but
down
especially
sights.
if I'm moving, it helps. Like if I'm moving
Yeah.
like a shot, I can slide, do like a
Yeah. I know what
do
you
like a
mean.
quick scope there. Like you won't even see the scope. You'll just start seeing it like go towards your character's head, and then you can let go of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Yeah. Okay, I'll answer another question from Boogie Rags. Boogie Rags, you're talking about stamina is your problem. What I would focus on with stamina in fights, a lot of people run out of stamina is because they're not sliding, they're not sprint sliding. Look how much stamina I'm saving in a fight like this. If I'm moving around a building, you'll watch like really good players and it's like, dude, how do they always have stamina? Like I always run out of stamina. It's well, watch what they're doing. The entire time they're moving around, they're taking corners, sliding like this, and they're conserving their entire stamina. So in a bunker fight, your enemy is going to run out of stamina twice as fast if they're just running around like this. Look how fast my stamina just ran out. But if I'm sprint sliding around the entire bunker and cutting all those corners while sliding, it's like it just lasts forever, right? I could slide throughout an entire fight like this and just stay mobile, hard to hit the entire time while my enemy's like, I'm out of sprint. You know, so if you're chasing someone around a bunker, try not to get too like crazy about chasing them, and because they're just gonna outrun you anyways. You can just stay sprint sliding and still kind of keep up with them, and then by the time that they actually land, they're out of stamina and you still got a lot in the tank. So unless you're right on their butt, I would say sprint slide, sprint slide. So something to focus on pretty much in every type of scenario. Like even like I can improve on it too. Something I need to improve on is just like sprint slide. Like I was playing against Frode last night in 2v2s and I was like, dude, this guy just is always moving like a psychopath. Just always like it's like, how are you always have so much stamina? Oh, because yeah, you're sprint sliding. You're doing what I'm talking about, but I don't actually do it all the time. But yeah, just like sprint slide, sprint slide, sprint slide.
And don't sprint jump. That absolutely eats your stamina.
Yeah, sprint jumping is the absolute worst thing you could do. Great point. Like this, see how much that takes? A quarter of your stamina bar, maybe a third every time you sprint jump. Now you're out. So if you're going to sprint jump, the one thing you got to do is you start the sprint, you land, and then you just stay into slides. You use the momentum from the sprint jump to keep going, but don't sprint jump again after that, unless you absolutely have to get more momentum to take this fight, right? But use that momentum from your first sprint slide, and then that's it. After that, you're pretty much done. And if you're just moving around through the map, don't sprint jump. It doesn't make any difference. You know, you might as well just stay sprint sliding like this. You get a lot more fuel that way.
And if you're going downhill, you can extend your slide very far.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Anytime you see any sort of slant at all, just use that. Just treat the whole map as like a little skate park. Even when you're like looting through buildings, the best way to learn how to do good movement is to practice sprint sliding and moving cleanly through buildings. So just make it like a little mini game for yourself, right? When you go through like any sort of building, try not to get caught up on walls like that, and try to move through the building as quickly as you can. Like say for classy courts, you know, something that I do when there's nobody there is like, okay, try to move through this building as quickly as possible while not touching any walls, while looting as quickly as possible. You know, try not to hit anything as we're going through it, and just get nice clean lines, move really fast, stay sprint sliding the whole time, and your movement will just like exponentially improve just because you've gotten really good at moving through small little gaps and areas while sprint sliding. Jedi, yeah, I didn't not friend request you. I think that was probably BZ Man on his fake account of Toby1 Shinobi YT, which is confusing a lot of people, I think. PC.
Do we need a rule against that?
I don't know how often you play on that account, PC, but I hope you're not selling me, making me look bad. He's just like,
like builds, trying to get you to build like champ.
that's funny. Republic Jedi, thank you for the $2. Slash the like button with your Katana Shinobis. Thank you.
Should I? This is just a members stream right now. This is going to be like possibly future content. We could make this into a YouTube video. I just figured I'd share it with all members. Let you guys ask some questions as well.
Toby, the other thing I've been coming across, especially in 2v2s, but also in regular VR lately, is just when people get the fists, I'm just getting destroyed like in seconds. How can I avoid getting destroyed by the fists? Because it's the main way that I die these days.
Yeah, let me find some Nitro Fists. Have you watched my Nitro Fist video?
I haven't, actually.
Oh, well, there's your answer.
I've not seen it.
That's your answer. But like, basically, the main thing with fists is if you see somebody pull those things out, you need to immediately start moving because they're going to go for the slam on you pretty much every time. And if they land that slam, they're going to land probably 2 hits, maybe more on you. And by then, you've already lost like 130 damage, maybe 120 now at this point. But like, so if I'm going for Neutrino, right, and he sees me go in the air and he's got Nitro on, he just sprint jumps out. Sprint jump out. Sprint jump out. So that's like, I don't know if maybe your Nitro's not working. But like, so like, here's some fists. Somebody try to smash me. So if I get Nitro on me, Nitro is a great counter to fist because you can sprint jump away. So they can't slam you if you do that. Go ahead, try again.
I gotta recharge.
Recharging, yeah. You're gonna need 2 chargers too.
And trust the gatekeeper as well. If someone is coming at you with fists, front on, you will out
I ran
DPS
out of
them.
turret.
Yeah.
You just, if someone stands on you, they're just gonna brain dead fist you, try and get the kill. But if you've got the gatekeeper, you can just hit 2 max headshots and they're dead.
Yeah.
If you've got any opening tags, that helps as well.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is if they slam and then follow an uppercut, go ahead, slam and then uppercut me right after Neutrino. Slam, uppercut, uppercut. Oh. Yeah, you're out. Here, can I have those fists?
I've got 2.
Also, who else has fists?
I got the 5th.
For some reason, I've heard, well, actually, I know that if you kill somebody that has fists, I guess it probably doesn't work here, but if you kill someone and they drop fists out of their inventory, you can drop yours out of your inventory, then pick them up, and you're full again.
Oh, okay.
Which is,
Does that actually work?
yeah, it works, yeah.
We didn't really drop them on.
So you actually have to pull them out of your inventory, then pick theirs up. You can't swap them. If you swap them, it's the same,
Yeah.
but you have to pull them out of yours first, and then it treats it like,
That's weird. I thought it would still be recharging in the background. 'Cause it's
Yeah.
not tied to the item, because if you hold...
I think it keeps the
Obviously.
counter going as long as it's in your inventory.
Okay. Interesting.
So, okay, so here's what I was saying is like, here, stand still for me, Surf. You got, how much health do you have?
140.
Okay, so if I go like this, right, and I slam Surf, then I follow up with an uppercut, it's really hard to do anything about that with a shotgun, right? You'll land one good shot maybe,
Yeah.
but then you just get like thrown in a corner and you're all discombobulated. So the best thing you can do is go ahead and do it to me, Surf. Best thing you can do is you hit that Nitro beforehand. You kind of know, I mean, try to have Nitro on you or mobility of some sort. If you have gloves yourself, then you just glove out, right? So I see Surf go up. Go ahead, Surf. We're running out of time. 13
Yeah,
seconds.
just regenning.
Yeah. 10 seconds on the map. Here we go. He goes up and I just jump out, right? Then I look for the shot. Okay, even then I got to jump out again. And then we're looking for a shot. But honestly, the gloves are such a dangerous thing that you just need to get out as soon as they go into the air. Use your own gloves, use your own mobility, use splashes, nitro splashes, gloves, shockwaves, whatever mobility you can use to get away from them is best. Because 99% of players are just going to try to, spam fists on you, and a lot of times they'll get away with it. They're just so broken because they can hit from 8 meters away, and if they lock on with that first 8-meter shot, the next shot's guaranteed. Even if they're 30 meters away, 20 meters away, it's a bug where they'll continue to hit you, even if you've knocked them far away, or if they've knocked you far away, they'll continue to hit you for some stupid reason.
Yeah, early in the season, I was just playing Mythic Gatekeeper, and everyone who brain dead beat me with fists was just getting destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you stay calm, right, and you can hit your shots, that's great. But I would say try to get some distance first to avoid that initial slam, because once they get you in that animation, start tossing you around, it can be hard to hit your shots. Like breaks your camera and like stutters and does all kinds of weird things. At some point, should I drop the controller?
All my mythic guns disappeared that I had from the drops.
Yeah, they get cleared. That's the way it should be. I hope I fix that. They should be clearing out of everyone's inventory about every minute. I won't tell people the exact timers, but like if people join mid-game who had mythics during their last game, it should clear out on a regular basis. 'Cause people shouldn't only get those 13 minutes in. There's like a timer above us up in the middle of the map that shows you when the parachutes are coming in. That's when the map gets all dark. That comes in with the mythics and the fists. Justified asks, I feel like I'm constrained with the controller. Yeah, you know, Justified, I would say that like controller really isn't, a lot of times it's not holding anyone back, but if you feel like it's very uncomfortable for you, if you feel like you have big hands or like you've got like really meaty hands that are really strong or like really big or, you know, just maybe really small, whatever it is, if the just controller doesn't feel right to you, you might consider playing around with mouse and keyboard. I know it's hard to quote unquote play around because playing around means like at least dumping $1,500 or $1,200 with just any sort of setup. That's worth it at least, unless you know somebody.
Controller.
But yeah, there's incredible players on controller, so it's clearly not like the device isn't really holding you back. But if you feel like you just can't improve, you need to either start playing with your controller differently in a way where you're really gentle on the controls, and maybe try some stick extensions.
Yeah, I'm super fast on my toggles.
Yeah.
So I noticed even though if I slow my settings down a little bit, I tend to over exaggerate my movements on my toggles, and that may not be fixed on a mouse, right? Because I could slide my mouse.
I mean, it's it's the same idea as like even with a mouse, right? You want to make really smooth movements, really gentle, tiny movements, and a lot of that is actually done with your fingertips, like just extending your digits like this. I'm just moving up and down. It's actually just me like flexing my fingers just up and down, out and in, left and right is like, so that's where those micro adjustments are made. And it's the same idea on a controller, is you want to be really gentle with the stick. If you want to make small adjustments, you want to be really gentle. You don't want to be jamming that stick around. The best way that I've found with that, literally guaranteed fixed my aim. Every time that I had like bad aim during a game in Halo, I would always be like, okay, I'm going to start pressing my triggers really soft and pressing all of my inputs on my controller really soft. What that does is it also makes you move your stick a lot softer, which results in more accurate aim, more controlled aim at least. So try that for a bit. Like anytime you press any button, make sure it's like really light, like you're just gently caressing that controller.
And when I first started with, I'm a controller player. When I first started, I had a lot of trouble slowing down for hip firing and things. I always ADS because I couldn't do it. But I went into creative and just kind of worked with the sensitivity and found something that I was comfortable being able to hip fire still and have control, but still be able to move fast enough. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to find your happy place in the sensitivity. And I switched to linear and have like exponential on and all this. Like I tried all these different things. I also took some of the dead zone. I had the dead zone down on my controller where as soon as I touched it, it would move right away, like no dead zone left. And I actually found adding a little bit of dead zone back actually helped make smaller movements because you have a little more play in your stick.
Yep.
Like right stick, I try to go really softly with it now and kind of practice just doing micro movements with my right stick, but my left one can go fast and do things. But it's just getting you practicing and getting used to that.
Yeah, changing a lot of your settings on controller is really deep. Like there's a lot of settings to change with how fast your acceleration kicks in, how much dead zone there is before your controller toggle starts moving. And then also just having an old controller is going to hurt you in a lot of ways because you'll naturally have more stick drift, which means you have to have higher dead zones, which makes it so that like your input doesn't actually register for a little bit of time. So a new controller or a good controller is really helpful. If you have been playing with a controller for 3 years, very likely you have a ton of stick drift, and you're gonna have to crank up those dead zones to not have your toggle be moving automatically, and that also means that your accuracy is gonna be a lot worse. So one of the things about the downsides of controllers, unless you have Hall effect controllers, which also have their own problems, analog sticks, is that you basically have to replace them like every year. And sometimes you can get away with like a year and a half, but even then, probably not. Unless it's a really well made
I used
controller.
a Elite controller with paddles, and I've replaced it about every year because I started noticing stick drift and problems with it like that.
Yeah, like a new controller just feels like night and day a lot of times.
Yeah, I just picked up an Elite as well with some freak sticks, and you can tell the difference for sure. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the issue, is coming from, I was playing on a controller that was probably like 4 years old. So, and then I jumped over to the new one, and now I feel like I'm super fast. So it's probably just getting used to the movement. And like you said, dialing in those settings to kind of match what your hands do is probably something I got to get used to.
Yeah, play around with it. Go into like an aim training map and just keep playing with gentle inputs, keep playing around. There's like MF Buddy and MF Dump both have really good videos on controller settings that you should play around with, because there's some really interesting settings there that can make a difference.
When you're in a car fight and someone hits an AMP or even two, what's the best way to get out of the car and not die?
You just die. But in all honesty, the best move generally is, hopefully you have some forward momentum, but if they hit you and if you get stuck against a wall, right, go ahead and throw it on me. Right now I'm just I'm just done. But you got to look at where they're on. So if you're on that side, I'm getting out on driver's side. But if you're on the other side, go ahead to my other side. You want to swap to the passenger and then get out, and then you give yourself at least a little hope, and then instantly crouch, and then you have a little bit of hope for shockwaving out or nitro fisting out. But in all honesty, if someone gets you with 2 EMPs, you're usually going to die unless they've got bad aim or they're just not ready for it, right? So here, we'll try it one more time. I'm driving this. The best thing is when you have some forward momentum, so you have a little bit of space. If you've got no space, right? So if I got some forward momentum, you hit me, nice. I've got some space. I'm going to get to my other passenger seat. Actually, now I'm going to get out on my driver's side. No, I'm not. So now I'm like looking at you. And a lot of times you can kind of trap people. It's like, okay, what is he going to do? If he's going to push me again, if he's already hit me and ripped off all my shields already, then it's kind of like a matter of like, you know, if I have plenty of space, I should have already left. But right now I can play against this and keep getting out on opposite sides like this, seat swap, and play the cover against you, basically. Because a lot of times they'll get overconfident about what's happening, and sometimes the best move is just keep seat swapping to the other side of the car, taking a jump shot, getting back in. Easier said than done. What's that?
My advice is don't use cars.
Yeah, just don't get near people in cars. Use them for rotation, use them for like cover and stuff, but as soon as you're within this range, you should consider yourself pretty much dead, because you should assume that everybody has nitro. I mean, not nitro, EMPs.
Maybe pick where you want to get to, and then just drive straight there and ditch the car.
Yeah, or just stay away from people, like a good 50 meters minimum when you're driving around people, so that they can't land a shot. And even then, some people are just cracked with EMPs and just like read it perfectly, throw nice perfect shots on you. That just disappeared. But yeah, EMPs are kind of hard to hit from that far, from like 30 meters out, 40 meters out. So
It's better getting the jump on someone, really.
and then try to stay moving too, and don't be driving at like rocks or trees or anything. If you're going to drive past somebody, make sure you've got some forward momentum ahead of you, so if you get shut down, you don't get stuck against something. So I think a lot of the car thing with surviving EMPs is about like just assuming that they have them to begin with, and then like either take the risk of pushing them, and if you're going to do it, make sure you're driving in such a way that you're not going to get stuck on something if they EMP you, because distance is your friend, right? So if I'm coming up here, I want to keep driving like past in a way that I'm not going to hit something, right? I want to be turned like this. If you hit me, I'm going to keep going forward. If my car were to shut down like it is right now, it keeps going forward, and I get distance, I get out, I shock out, and heal. All right. Anybody else got any questions? I think most of my problem is I don't play enough to get a good feel. Thank you for all the input, though. Yeah, that's another thing with controller settings. Any setting at all is give yourself some time to get used to it. If you start switching things around like every day, like, oh, it just isn't feeling good, like you're never gonna feel comfortable. It takes a long time to get comfortable and like really used to something. Somebody's got some tried and true settings and you don't have anything that's feeling right, try those out for like a week. Give it at least a full week. Don't change it. Just do your best to get used to it, and then you're probably gonna end up liking it.
For zero build, do you reckon exponential or linear is best?
That's kind of argued both ways a lot of times, but I don't play a lot of controller these days. I mean, I don't play controller these days, so I am not the best person to answer that. But for me, I like exponential because I'm just used to that. Like, that's how most shooters are. At least Halo was exponential. Sorry. Yeah, exponential. Yeah. Where it's like a slow input.
A lot as well. You might want to do a full 180 quite often, and you need to be able to do that in good time, or you're at a major disadvantage against keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, that's where linear, I think, is just stronger, is that all of your... Linear is ultimately better if you can get good with it, I think. That's the straight answer, because linear, every single movement is consistent. There's no slowdown, there's no, ramp up speed. So all of your movements are super consistent. Now that also makes it so that it's a lot harder to control with such a small joystick, because every one of your movements is just like instantly fast. You can tweak things a little bit with linear still and make it feel a little more like exponential, but ultimately it is kind of just raw input. Nothing is adjusted by the software, like slowing things down and making it more less sensitive.
I actually did a mix on mine. I did linear, but so I have like 20 sensitivity for linear, but then I also put 20 in my boost, 20%, and I think the boost gives you the exponential if you go further on your joystick.
Yeah.
Once you pitch past a certain point, but with micro movements, you're going to move the same every time because of the linear. I found that was something that changed for me a lot and helped, but
yeah, that's a great point.
you kind of have exponential and linear at the same time. If I go full with my stick all the way over one side, then I'll spin really quickly, and then I can lock onto somebody that's like do a 180 and look back on them, but then I can also go micro and just do really still movements and slower.
Yeah.
When I tried linear for a while, it was really good in close quarter, but when I was trying to aim a sniper and stuff, I was struggling to get the micro adjustments and aim properly.
Yeah, that's because, again, it's just raw input, right? There's no slowdown or there's no ramp up time, which that's the biggest difference with exponential is it starts slow and then goes fast. So it's more precise on those little inputs that you put in, where linear is just instantly like whatever you input you put in, it's just going that distance. And a lot of times you're just not ready for that. So you got to be really gentle with linear. So it's really hard at long range to fight with linear on until you get really good at it. Beezy makes a good point is anytime you're doing aim training, just turn off your aim assist. It's just going to make you so much better, especially with like linear, where your aim assist isn't like locking onto people or, slowing down, adjusting your sensitivity every time you cross them. Turn off your aim assist anytime you're aim training, and it's going to make you a lot better in the long run. It's going to get you a lot more control. Keyboard and mouse will hate you on linear because linear is crazy and close. Yeah, I mean, I have no comment, but it does feel like average players can beat me on controller at close range, and that's why I try to avoid close range fights, because you just gotta assume everyone's gonna hit their shots. Where on like mouse and keyboard, it took me like literally a year to even get like decent at close range fighting, because it's so hard to hit shots on mouse and keyboard at close range because there is no slowdown, and if you miss just a little bit like this, right, it just misses. Like you'll get, you know, a 20 damage or something for like just a. And what people don't realize also about mouse and keyboard is that a tiny little movement like this is everything. Like that throws off everything. If you do a minor little flick off, this is me literally moving my mouse half of a centimeter. And it goes from a 76 to a 25 just because I moved my mouse half a centimeter while I was kind of flicking around. And then like, whereas controller, it's a little easier because it's like, oh, it slows down and that's like really hard to actually get off of them. Not really hard, but like, you know, it's a lot more sticky. It just slows down that sensitivity when you cross them, and it's like harder to miss because it doesn't pull off them. Where mouse doesn't do that if you do that. See, I just got a 25 that looked like it should have been 100 because I lightly pulled off just for a millisecond, which is really easy to do if you have shaky aim, especially, right? Like that. It's just like, So a lot of people think mouse and keyboard is super easy, but it's not at close range. It's actually harder than controller, I would argue.
Yeah, the curves are different.
Yeah.
I'd say mouse and keyboard has a higher skill ceiling, but it's harder to pick up.
Yeah. It's like kind of easier. I mean, it's like, it's kind of a more natural input in my opinion. Like I think a lot of people can be pretty good at medium range and like longer range, but once you get in close range, you start realizing how hard it is to hit those flicks quickly and like, you know, aim properly while moving. Then that's kind of like,
I used
okay.
to be so bad.
Yeah.
Back in the builds days, I was pretty awful at close range, like shotgun fights.
Yeah. That's where gyro used to excel. Yeah, longer ranges gyro is pretty good. It's a huge problem as a console player tries to take a setting from a PC player for controllers. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm saying all this stuff with like, I don't play controller, so take it with a grain of salt, but from what I've heard, and I played controller for 25 years of my life, so I do know how controllers work in general, but I don't play with them on Fortnite. But yeah, don't be trying to like crank up your sensitivity to be super high to try to match like what you see keyboard players doing, because this is also the major advantage of mouse and keyboard is I can flick instantly 180 degrees, right? Like literally just a single flick can get me around in a millisecond, where you just can't do that on controller. But with that comes also the ability to accidentally flick off of somebody very easily. And biggest thing, if you're trying to work on mouse and keyboard aim, record your gameplay and just watch it and make sure that you don't have shaky aim. I see this so much. I see people on mouse and keyboard who crank up their sensitivity. You can't play on high sense until you get really good mouse control. I promise you, you're hurting yourself, because what I'll see is like people's aim that looks like this. You can see like when they're shooting around, they do this, and look how shaky that aim is. Like a lot of people really struggle with that because usually they're rocking too high of a sensitivity. And you got to do a lot of aim training and smooth out that aim so that you get nice, smooth movements on your mouse. And at higher sensitivities, that's even harder to get smooth. Like this is actually difficult for me to do. You don't realize that your muscles kind of like tension. You have a lot of tensity, a lot of tension in your movements when you're moving your wrist and your arm around. So turn down your sensitivity if you're not really, really good yet.
I say that if you're on mouse and keyboard, you want the highest sense where you have full control.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want it to be any lower than it needs to be, but you don't want to see any jolting or any, like, just, you don't want to be regularly overshooting or undershooting.
Yeah, and like it's hard for people to pick up, but like I've watched a lot of people in the Discord will stream every once in a while that are mouse and keyboard, and I can just instantly tell that their sense is way too high for their control because of that shakiness to their aim. If they're trying to shoot at people and you can see little like jittering, that means that their sense is too high for them, for their current skill level or for their current control. Very, very common for people to crank up that sensitivity and think it's okay. I've actually trained in 1v1s. The thing about Fortnite is I think the default sense, I think they put you at like 40% or something insane.
Disturbingly high.
Like disturbingly high. Like no one should be able to control that, and people think that's kind of like baseline. So they don't get any advice from anyone. They just keep it kind of that level. I've trained with somebody who had it at 90%, and they were playing on 1600 DPI. Dude, you literally can't play the game like that. Like, and he's been doing that for 2 years. 2 years. Felt so bad.
What
I was like,
DPI are you on?
I'm on 1600 now, but I play at 4.5%. So
I'm
that's
on
like 9% on
1400
8.
and- Yeah, I'm at 1400 and 5.5.
Okay, yeah. So you're pretty similar. But yeah, can you imagine 1690%? Like, I turned that on. Watch what I do. Watch this.
That's absurd. That's 20 times your sense.
Yeah.
20 times.
Here, just throw it on 90 really quick. Here, watch this. This is what he was doing. I just, in like, oh my god. This is me trying to land a shotgun shot on Neutrino. He was doing this, dude.
Oh dear. That's not playable.
No. And he was like, and he was very like, very focused on getting better. But like, if you don't get the right advice from people, I was really glad he did one-on-one training with me, because instantly fixed him. Then after he started playing it like, 10% or whatever, he was like, oh my god, I can't play this game. It's so slow. But he's like, I'm actually hitting shots though. Yeah, you can actually see what's happening in your game. I can't believe it. It was mind-blowing.
After I spent 10 days on Marvel Rivals, I played a quite high sense on that. I came out to Fortnite and it felt disturbingly slow. It took me like a week to get back used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the same sense and everything. It was like my normal sense. It just felt like sluggish as anything.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, but again, start lower than you think. In most cases, like Finicky said, put it way lower than you think at first. Like, Finicky's cracked, and he plays at 1600, 3.6%, which is, 7.2 on 800 DPI, which is still pretty low. So, cracked players, if you just learn to aim with your arm and your wrist and your fingertips, all three motions, and your shoulder, you don't really need very high sense. Yes, you do here, Surf. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna wrap it up. I'll finish with one more question if anyone's got any burning questions. Anyone been waiting to ask
When
something?
you're in game, and would you pick up a orange combat over an orange gatekeeper?
When you say orange, do you mean gold or mythic? Legendary or mythic?
No, legendary.
Okay. And it was combat shotgun? Sorry, repeat the question one more time.
Combat shotgun over a gatekeeper.
Yeah, I kind of view both shotguns as equally good. Now, the gatekeeper is going to win fights at close range like this. If you hit your shots, like, it's just destroys people, right? With the combat, you got to play further ranges for it to be effective. It's all about spacing. If you're going to use a combat, you can't let people get close to you, because that's how you get advantage with the combat, is you stay at that range right there. Because if I hit you with my gatekeeper right now, right, 49 is the best I can do, you're probably doing about 50 also the entire time, and you shoot twice as fast.
That was
I've got the combat. Do you want to just show a DPS at different ranges?
Yeah, here we go. So I'm standing right here.
I'll come right to your face, and then if we both shoot like 3, 2, 1. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, you
sorry.
were low.
Yeah, sorry. Let me just pick up a combat.
Yeah, your max damage is a bit higher than mine at the same fire rate, and you've got a bigger pellet spread. And
Yeah. So, like, here's the difference. Just stand still for me, Surf.
yeah.
So, like, I can shoot Surf this fast, right? And I'm hitting for about 50 apiece, where I probably have about 50 apiece with the gatekeeper, 40 at this range, and I only have 3 shots, or maybe 5 if I get an extended mag, and it shoots slower. I guess it shoots about the same fire rate, to be honest, but you just have a
I like
lot
the
more in
combat
your
for just
mag.
getting chip damage.
Yeah.
Like, you can just keep, especially with nitro, if you just keep moving with nitro.
And the big thing about the combat is people are running away from you, you still land damage at, like, I'm hitting him from 40 meters out and doing 17, which is pretty great, considering the fact that, like, with a gatekeeper, if they start shocking out and they get that far, you're not going to do any damage to them. So you have to be, I think gatekeeper is like 25 meters or something, max range. So you can't kill people shocking out or running away. with a gatekeeper. You gotta switch to a different weapon.
Its range is pretty good compared to the pump, though. Although no one's carrying the pump.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the gatekeeper's damage within ranges is pretty darn good. Even like here, I'll probably hit 40 at like 15 meters out, which is pretty solid when you consider it, like, because of how fast it shoots.
Yeah, its range is surprisingly good. Well, it might not feel like it because the combat's in right now and the pump isn't meta.
Yeah.
But if you know sort of what the range is like, you can go for good like 70 damage shots when someone's 2 tiles away.
Yeah. So overall, I would say the combat and the gatekeeper are both excellent shotguns. You just need to know how to use them. And the combat shotgun's more of a movement shotgun. If you really like movement, pick it up and just like keep range, keep distance, and stay moving. Because you want to be really hard to hit. And the advantage is that you have more shots in your magazine, and you get basically to just get more chances to take shots and stay hard to hit at medium range. Because they're going to have to use a different weapon to fight you other than a gatekeeper to finish you off, where you can just keep the shotgun out the entire time at this range, the combat. And it reloads super fast, 2 shots per reload, which is insane. Especially on nitro, the thing just instant reloads.
Because you could get stuck being unable to reload with the gatekeeper in an endgame, whereas the combat you can just do 2 at a time really quickly. You start with 8, so that can kill like, you might be able to get like 4 cleanup kills in an endgame with the combat. Whereas the gatekeeper, maximum, like, maybe 2.
Yeah. So gatekeeper is ultimately a high risk, high reward. Like, it's really good in, like, FFA scenarios. If you're just trying to kill people as quick as possible, gatekeeper is just going to be better. Because, you can 3-tap people. Whereas if you try to do that with a combat, you're going to have to be really hitting your shots at close range. And it's going to take at least 4 to 5 shots in most cases. Whereas gatekeeper is just going to delete you. But yeah, in real games, it's about distance.
I'd say they're equal, you have to play them differently.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're running a Thunderburst SMG, there's not really a point in carrying the combat shotgun because those ranges are fairly similar. You want to do Gatekeeper SMG if you're going to do that, because the Thunderburst has such good range, like such good flexibility, that it almost hits as hard, if not harder, than a combat at medium range anyways. Right? If I'm landing consistent damage like this, like 100 is actually crazy. It's like, what's the point in using a shotgun if you've got good aim? See that? It's crazy. So Thunderburst is just better at medium range and long ranges. So carry Gatekeeper if you're going to carry Thunderburst. But combat shotgun and like AR, like a combat assault rifle, is a pretty good pairing. Or an Enforcer. Because it allows you to cover that medium.
It's a great 2-gun loadout.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really strong.
Is Thunderburst the best overall weapon? Very likely, to be honest. Like, I think it has the most flexibility. It can hit like as hard as a shotgun if you're landing your shots at close range. You can do 100 damage to someone with a single burst.
I mean, yeah, you could carry 2 bursts and probably be fine.
Yeah, you just have to have good aim, though. It's the problem. It's a very precise weapon. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it is maybe the best overall weapon. Like, you could just carry, like you're saying, sort of two Thunderbursts. You could actually probably play with that an entire game, as long as you're hitting shots. All right, y'all, that's gonna do it for me. I'm gonna start my real stream up very soon here. Get some water, do a couple things, but I will start the loading screen. Thanks for the Q&A, guys. Hope it was helpful. I will catch you guys later. Anyone who's still in training, if you guys want to run 2v2s or whatever, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, I will see you later.
Yeah.
Have a good one. Thanks for streaming this. Yeah, I think I might do like demo lobbies. I'll probably do live more often to members, and I might make content out of it. I think it's probably helpful for people. But like master trainings and like scrimmages, that sort of thing, will always stay private to just masters, because I don't want anyone feeling like, you know, they're trying to improve at the game and they're really novice and they feel like bad about being on live stream and getting quote unquote embarrassed, even though you should never really put ego into it and care, but some people do. So we keep that stuff private. And yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to head out for a few minutes and then start my actual stream. This is just a members only one. So I'll see you guys soon.